Hello everyone, in this video we'll dive into the world of string methods in Python. Let's begin by understanding what string methods are. String methods are built-in functions that allow us to manipulate and transform strings in various ways. They're functions that can be applied directly to strings to perform specific actions or transformations. String methods are called by typing a dot and then the function. So for example, you can see that we have the string hello world, which is calling the .upper function, which makes every letter in the string uppercase. First, we'll start with case transformation methods, which allow us to change the case of a string. The methods we'll cover include .upper, .lower, and .capitalize. These methods will help us convert strings to uppercase, lowercase, or capitalize the first letter, respectively. Let's see an example that demonstrates the usage of case transformation methods. So we can set message equal to hello world. And I didn't capitalize H for a reason. It's just so that I could show you all of the methods correctly, because otherwise you won't really notice anything if it was capitalized. So we could set uppercase equal to message.upper. We could set lowercase to message.lower, and then we can set capitalize to message.capitalized. So when you're calling these functions, you put a dot and then the name of the function followed by an opening and then a closing parenthesis. For .upper, you just do .upper, and then the same goes for all three of these ones. So this variable is equal to hello world in all caps. Lowercase is equal to this string, but all lowercase. So as you notice, W is uppercase, but it will not be. Capitalized makes sure that the first letter is uppercase and that everything else is lowercase. So H would be capital and everything else would be lower, including the W that's already capitalized. So capitalized only does the first letter in the entire string. So if we printed each one of these, we could print message, and then we can also print uppercase, and then we can also print lowercase, and then we can also print capitalized. So now when we run this, you can see that we get the original string, which is message. Then we get hello world in all caps, which is uppercase. As you notice, it only changes the letters to all caps. It doesn't really do anything with these symbols since they're not letters. You can't just capitalize them. The lowercase, as you can see, it lowers every single letter. And then capitalized makes the first letter capitalized and nothing else. Now let's use this in a more real-world example. Let's say we prompted the user to answer with either yes or no, and they said yes with a capital Y. And we wanted to check which one they typed. They could have typed, the answer as yes, or they could have typed it as yes, or they could have typed it as yes or yes with any range of capitalization. There's no way of knowing which one they're going to type, and there's a lot of possibilities, and we don't want to type every single one. So if we set an if statement that was if answer equals yes, or answer equals yes, or answer equals yes, every possible thing, that's not a good idea. Instead, what we could do in our if statement is do answer.lower is equal to yes. And this would evaluate to true. So now, if we save this and run it, you can see that it says you said yes, because yes, lowercase, is equal to yes. So instead of having to do or for every possibility, we just do .lower. Note that applying this .lower does not actually change the value of the variable. So if we printed this after we did that, it would still be capitalized. We didn't actually change the variable. If you wanted to change the variable, you could just do .lower here, and that would change the actual variable because answer is set equal to it. Or later in the program, you can say answer equals answer.lower, and this would change the value to the lowercase version of answer. Let's see an example that demonstrates the usage of string validation methods. We're going to be doing two of these in this video. We're going to be doing IsNumeric and IsAlpha. These methods help us determine if a string consists of only numeric characters or only alphabetic characters. So here's an example. We can set age equal to the string 25 and name equal to John Doe. Notice I'm not doing a space in here, and there's a reason for that. And then we can say is age numeric equals age.isNumeric, and then is name alpha equals name.isAlpha. So IsNumeric and IsAlpha don't return any string manipulation. They actually return a Boolean value. So if you remember, Booleans are true or false, and these can be used in if statements. So if we were to say something like if is age numeric is equal to true, then we can do something. But also, since this just returns true as well, you could just say if is age numeric, because it's already a Boolean, so you don't need to say equals true or anything like that. This is a Boolean returning function. So without doing this for now, we can just print is age numeric and then is age alpha. And here we say true and true, because is age numeric checks if the string can be easily converted into an integer. If we had letters in here, it would return false, because you can't convert this into an integer. Is alpha is returning true because John Doe is all alphabetical characters. And if we put a space in here, it would return false, because a space is not an alphabetical character. So watch out for that. A real-world example that I would use this in is if I wanted to easily check if a string could easily be converted into an integer, so that I wouldn't have to deal with errors and stuff like that. Because if someone entered their age and they entered in a letter by accident, I could check if age.isNumeric is true, or just not have the is true part, because it's the same thing, and we don't need these variables anymore. So if it's numeric, continue with program, and then if I did else, meaning it's not numeric, we could just do something like whatever the code is for re-prompt them. So if you're not familiar with pass, by the way, this is just a way to not type anything in an if statement. So over here we could just continue, and over here we can re-prompt them if it's not numeric, because we want to evaluate their answer as an integer and not a string. Now let's explore whitespace manipulation methods, which allow us to move leading and trailing whitespace from a string. The methods we'll cover include strip, LStrip, and RStrip. These methods help us remove any unwanted whitespace characters. Let's see an example of how whitespace manipulation methods are used. So here we could say text is equal to Python for beginners with a bunch of spaces at the front and back. Now we could say trimmed text is equal to text.strip. And so what this is doing is it's setting a new variable equal to text without the front and back spacings. So if we printed trim text, we would get Python for beginners with no spaces at the ends. Now what we could do is we could remove the back of it only, which would be RStrip, because it's the right side of the string. So if we ran this now, we would get this with no space, and then you can't see the spaces in here because it's just a terminal window, but you get the point. And then LStrip does the exact same thing, but removes it from the front, and so theoretically there are some more spaces in here, but you can't really see them because this is just a terminal window, but there are spaces here that Python has evaluated. So now what this is doing is it's simply just removing unnecessary white space, and it only removes it from the front and back. And normal strip also just removes it from the front and back. It doesn't remove any in between at all, so you don't have to worry about that. What this could be useful for is if a user has inputted something and they just typed a space or something, and you just wanted to make sure that it was evaluated correctly. Now, just like before, doing something like this, like printing text and then .strip, will not change the value of text. It just prints the version of text with .strip applied to it. So you're not actually changing the variable. If you wanted, you could apply .strip here, and it would remove these white spaces, and it would actually be applied here. And if .strip has nothing to do over here, you won't get an error. It just won't do anything because it has nothing to do. So don't worry about using any of these methods without any need to, because you can still use them and be redundant with them if you have to for whatever reason. But this does not change the value. Only doing this changes the value. Or setting text equal to text.strip, which also would do the same thing because you're reassigning text to the strip version of text. So if that sounds a little confusing, it's just how Python works. The string methods don't actually change any values, they just return the values. Lastly, we'll explore the replace method, which allows us to replace specific portions of a string with new values. This helps us modify strings by replacing occurrences of a substring with a different value. So if we had a sentence and it was equal to Python is awesome, and we had modified sentence and it was equal to sentence, see, we're setting a new variable equal to this variable but modified with the .replace. And in these parentheses, this is the first time we're typing something in the parentheses in this video. In these parentheses, we have to give this 2 arguments. In Python, arguments are separated by commas, so we can say argument 1 is separated by the comma, and then argument 2. And obviously, arguments don't have to be strings. I don't know why I typed them like that. You can set variables, whatever, but they're separated by commas. And so in this .replace over here, we can replace awesome with amazing. So here we have modified sentence is equal to sentence.replace, and the first argument is what we're replacing, and then the second one is what we're replacing it with. So it makes sense. Awesome is being replaced with amazing. And like I said, they don't have to be strings. So if you had a variable called new substring, and a substring is just part of a string, by the way, and you can say amazing, you could just set this to new substring, and it would work the same way. And so modified sentence is equal to this, and just like before, .replace does not change anything with sentence. If you ran sentence.replace on this, right, if we replaced Python with something like Java, for example, it wouldn't actually change the value of it. When we printed sentence here, it would just simply type Python is awesome, because we've never actually changed this value before. So here we can just print modified sentence, and here we get Python is amazing because we replaced awesome with amazing. And if you didn't have this substring, so if we just typed something random here and we ran it, it just wouldn't change anything. So this is useful because you're not going to get an error. If you're worried about getting errors, do not worry, because this, if it can't find anything to replace, it just won't do it. So we could just replace the exclamation mark with a period, for example, so we can say Python is awesome with a dot instead. And so I know I've been going a lot into saying how this doesn't actually change the value, right? If we just ran sentence.replace and then just replaced awesome with amazing, I just want you to know this because you might eventually run into this problem and be thinking, why isn't it working? Why isn't it working? You just have to set, if you're trying to change the variable's value, you have to set the variable to this, not just run the function here. So if we did sentence equals sentence.replace, then it would change the value. But over here, if we just printed sentence again, it wouldn't change it. Python is awesome, and Python is awesome, and this did nothing except Python read it, but it did nothing in functionality. Congratulations, you've explored various string methods that Python offers for efficient string manipulation. By mastering these methods, you'll have powerful tools at your disposal for working with strings in Python. Thanks for watching.